Last year, we kicked off the year in January with 532 new patients, which for us, that was a record. And that felt like a great start. Fast forward to this year now, in January of this year, we had 830 new patients across our location. And that translates out to 56% growth.
You were given the opportunity to lay a foundation. Think about all the things that you fixed to get to where you're at now. Like if you would have dumped marketing on top of those broken things, it wouldn't have worked, right? You would have failed. And then you would have been like, oh, I'm failing. That's what makes dental so tricky.
If we had really rolled out, especially the advertising segment too early, right? You're just lighting money on fire. And that's all you're doing. If everything's not ready and you go there, like...
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the founder of SMC National, where we help you create, convert, and close more new patients so you can grow the way that you want. And today I have a very, very special guest. I have my friend Geoff, who is the marketing director at Dental Arts Groups and manages 14 locations. And he's going to share his secret sauce on how he has grown by 40% year over year, adding an additional 1,700 new patients in the last year. Also, he's going to talk about his 7-to-1 ROI on his marketing and the record January. 2 years in a row, he's knocked it out of the park in January, just absolutely crushing the year before. And this is all being done. He's brand new to dental. He's just now, this is his first dental gig. He is going to blow your mind. And this story is going to really, really help you understand what you can do and how you can do it and how to grow. If you're struggling with growing, this is the episode for you. Stay tuned. Right. We are live. And I'm excited about this one because I met Geoff right when he came into the dental industry, or pretty early when he came into the dental industry. And he has taken it on. And it's one of the hardest things to do is come into the dental industry as a marketer and be successful. And I've seen so many people fail. And Geoff not only hasn't failed, but he has excelled. And I've gotten the opportunity to work closely with him and my team because we are partners with him and his practices. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation because the last time we did a podcast, right as you were getting started, kind of everything was broken at your practices from a marketing perspective. You had great practices, great leadership, and those kind of things, but marketing was like a clean slate, basically. And I remember talking through like, what about your phones? What about this? What about your forms? And just everything had to be rebuilt. And you've done an amazing job with it. And I'm really, really excited to talk through this because it is a special story. We see all the data around this, and you are absolutely crushing it. So let's first jump into and we've been working. How long have we worked together? How long has it been? Has it been a year? Over a year?
A little over a year now. We signed on at the beginning, or I guess the very tail end of 2022, and really took off and went live at the very beginning of 2023. So yeah,
perfect. So we're recording this in March. And so it's been a little bit over a year that we're working together. And so far you've had a 1,700 new patient increase, or a 40% increase in new patient year over year, which is amazing. Like that's beast mode. Like that's what everybody wants. It also, I'm sure, has caused some problems in there, and we'll talk about that. But tell me a little bit about that portion of it. Like what has that felt like? What did that mean to the company, and just kind of how?
It feels quite good. That's the easiest way to put it, is that it feels quite good, and that it feels like I'm certainly grabbing and understanding this. But yeah, obviously over last year, and as you mentioned, when I first came into this, I was quite new, especially to dentistry, not so much to marketing, but dentistry. And the goal was to take what I knew and apply it to the current company. And yeah, there were some things that we needed to fix, some low-hanging fruit, especially on the marketing side. Got that all resolved. And then last year, I remember when we spoke last, that the big thing that I mentioned was that it was time to turn on advertising. We had felt that we had set that foundation, and we were going to see how we could grow throughout 2023 with advertising turned on. And about a quarter of the way through last year, we got it. And through a lot of refining, we saw a lot of continued growth. And so, yeah, we ended up getting that 40% growth, roughly about 1,700 new patients, I think it was.
Hey, sorry to interrupt the show, but I want to make sure that you're going to DICOMA 2024. It's July 10th through the 12th. And guess what? We are going to be speaking on the main stage, and we're going to be hosting a boot camp as well. And we want to give away some free tickets. So how do you win these free tickets? You go to smcnational.com, click the little bar that says enter to win free DICOMA, and then you submit your information, and everybody's a winner. We're going to be giving a discount to everybody who enters, and we're going to be giving away some free tickets to the conference itself and to the boot camp. Make sure you sign up for these right away. Back to the show.
And
how many practices do you guys have again?
That should have been measured for 13. Right now
13,
we're at
okay.
14 practices. So,
Okay. But you're not counting the new practice that you added for that growth, right?
no,
Okay.
not trying to pad my numbers with that, and we'll keep them a little bit separate until we get some more data. But yeah, last year, I mean, we kicked off the year in January with 532 new patients, which for us that was a record, and that felt like a great start. And it was 48% growth over the 2022 number. So pretty happy with that. And for me, I think at that point, again, being so new, there was maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, is this really me doing it? Are we doing a good job? Like, could this be a fluke? And so that was where it really kind of set off the year with some stress. Like, did I just like hit it out of the park without realizing it? Or is this going to continue? And so, fast forward to this year now, in January of this year, we had 830 new patients across our locations. And that translates, right? And that translates out to 56% growth. And so, for me, big sigh of relief. I feel like now I'm definitely starting to understand this. I feel like things are really working well, and we do have a lot more going for us. And obviously, it's always nice to, be successful. I do think, especially with marketing, when people come in, sometimes people want, okay, I need new patients now, right? And at that time, it's kind of too late. You need to reset and get everything working for you. Luckily, I don't have that right now. Like, we have consistent growth, and so that is fantastic. It lets me
and I will say, just for the audience, because I do talk to those people all the time, I've seen so many marketing people just get let go, and what happens is you were given the opportunity to lay a foundation. Most people don't get that opportunity. So think about all the things that you fixed to get to where you're at now. Like, if you would have dumped marketing on top of those broken things, operational things, phones, schedules, all the reviews, all those things, it wouldn't have worked, right? You would have failed. And then you would have been like, oh, I'm failing. And that's what makes dental so tricky.
Yeah. And not just that, if we had really rolled out, especially the advertising segment too early, right? You're just lighting money on fire. And that's all you're doing. If everything's not ready and you go there, like, yeah, you might generate a few new patients, but there's so much to figure out just with advertising, just with the targeting. And that was really a lot of what we did last year. A lot of what we focused on was just refining that specific piece of marketing. And so, yeah, if we had not done that, not taken the time to make sure that everything else was really set up and was building on a strong base, we would have spent a lot more money than we needed to get here.
So question, how much to get 40% growth, how much more did you have to spend than the year before?
I believe so. I think the last time we spoke, our ad budget was about zero. Okay. It's just about as low as you could get. Maybe there was a couple things in there, but literally about zero. I think when we truly turned it on, from maybe around mid-May to June is when it really came on. We spent roughly $300,000 across our locations to generate what I think production broke down to almost $2 million, maybe a little bit short of that. So yeah, right. And I think, shameless plug for my boss, but he said, I gave you a couple $100,000 and you kind of got me a new location and revenue. And so that is cool to hear.
That's so cool. What's the ROI on the, so that's like 7-1, somewhere in there. 6.5, 7-1, somewhere in there, which is amazing for GP. That means all the changes that you made actually work. Because if you would have had those holes, no chance you would have seen that kind of increase. And so bravo to you. So let's talk through those holes that you actually closed. And then I want to talk about the things that didn't work, because not everything worked, right? There were some things that you and I personally met with you multiple times. We had masterminds about it. Yeah. I had internal meetings about it. So I want to talk about some of the bad things, because I think that will help people.
Yeah.
But first, what were the things in your foundational stage that you laid that you're like, I'm so thankful that I did those things before I started marketing?
I think it was really the brand and the fact that we were out there. We had a pretty good digital presence to begin with. We had a very good name notoriety to begin with. And so for a lot of our locations, I mean, my biggest location, we still don't have advertising spend. It's almost zero, because we have such phenomenal name recognition there. And that does make my life a little bit easier. It helps to have a provider who just absolutely kills it all the time. And I do credit a lot of the success to some of our providers for sure. I can't take it all. But yeah, bringing on the advertising, making sure that our digital footprint was strong, making sure that our teams were strong, making sure that our patient journey was strong. And these things all really helped us. We did quite a lot of refining. I'm not going to say it was perfect, especially, I say that our phones were good. I do think they were. Our teams were are always very good. They're personable, they're fun. But we measured it last year for the first time ever. We learned that it was a 45% conversion rate in some cases. And I feel like that's not atypical for a lot of practices. And I think that's...
Yeah, and for marketing, that was the conversion rate?
Yeah, on the phone.
Yeah, that's around industry average is around 50%. And most people don't realize it. They just think, no, it's working. You know what I mean? So what do you know what you're at now? What your conversion rate is now?
We're pushing 75%. I think group wide, we're at 70 now. A lot of our locations hitting 75.
If you wouldn't have fixed that, like if that was never addressed at any point, like you wouldn't be anywhere near where you're at with new patients. So you would have lost 25%, close 25, 30% of those true. Down the drain.
Yeah, it's completely true.
Awesome.
And so much of it relies on that. Again, all these things work together. And that's part of why you have to build this system in stages and also make sure you're working everything at the same time. Because again,
how'd you get them to level up? How'd you get everybody to level up like that?
A lot of training, a lot of focusing, a lot of time, coaching, just so much of it. I think the biggest thing was...
Did you coach them, or did SMC coach them? Did you coach them? Was it like combo, or how did you do it? So we
started...
I honestly don't know.
No, yeah. So we started, and we moved the needle a little bit ourselves, but not as far as we wanted to. And then I think a lot of it is the fantastic coaching that you all at SMC provide, but I think that it was coming from a different person, and that's all it took, was just people learning, like listening a little bit more, because it's not coming from us.
It's not coming from the marketing guy that's coming into my office trying to tell me how to do things. Yeah,
for sure.
Does make a difference.
Kudos to Kristen at SMC, because she's phenomenal with all of our teams, and it has helped quite a bit, and the response and feedback has been phenomenal. But the biggest thing was us teaching them how to control the call, and again, Kristen helping with that. And for me, so much of communication happens through like body language and, us being able to see each other. And when you're on the phone, you just don't get that. But people, especially when they're on the phone day to day, not really thinking about these things, they don't think about them. And so you kind of have to teach them, take control of that call, really grab them by the hand and say, all right, come along with me to booking this appointment, because otherwise there's too much confusion. There's too much to let it get in the way. They start going off on tangents. It just doesn't work out. And so you really need to encourage your teams to just grab a hold of that patient phone call and just take command.
Control it.
Yeah. And just bring them through. And the greeting that we set up helped us so much with that, helped our team so much with that.
I have some videos that I did recently, because this is such a problem, right? And I did some secret shopping, and I recorded it. In most of the offices I would just pick up the phone. I'd say, hey, are you guys taking new patients? They're all, yep. I'm cool. When's the soonest you can get me in? Next week. How much is an implant? It's this much. All right. Do you got any, how much do you charge for a hygiene appointment? Oh, it's this much. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Have a good day. It's like, 100%. I just control the whole conversation, and they're just happy to get me off the phone.
Yeah.
And that's how most people answer the phones in dental, to be honest.
It's true. We saw so many phone calls and our teams didn't even realize it. They didn't even realize at the end of the call would be like, all right, let us know.
Thanks.
And then it would just click off. And then, you'd play it back from them and be like, oh my God, yeah, that doesn't work at all. But again, it's not something, no one's going out there excited to listen to their phone calls. They're not jumping out of bed in the morning, ready to go listen to themselves talk. It's awkward. It's weird. They hate it. But now they all admit, there's some value there.
Yeah, 100%. Is there anything else that you laid the foundation with that was like just really helped your marketing?
Not specifically. The big thing that we focused on building was the ads, taking I guess taking our reviews to the next level, but that was just bringing on a service to make sure that
Yeah,
is
but
going
still,
that
you need
extra
to do
mile.
it because
Yeah.
it's those are phones is easy to quantify. So I can look at your phones and go, you were at 45, you're at 75. That's a 30% lift. That's easy math. Google reviews are a tricky one because no one would disagree. Like if you get more Google reviews, it helps all of your marketing, everything, right? Everybody agrees with that. But we don't know the exact threshold. We just know ballpark we need to be in the conversation. So a lot of times it gets overlooked because it's not that like exact number that we're looking for. So did you automate it completely, or did you like incentivize the team, or how did you do it?
A little bit of both. We actually started out the year with a team incentives, and then we brought on a new service. So we were just sending automated texts ourselves, which, again, another thing that maybe we won't talk about as much. But if you're not automating your messaging, you're setting yourself up for not a great start. So automate everything. But we brought on different services throughout the year and tried them out and saw what they would improve. And yeah, our numbers went up quite a bit. And like you say, it's kind of it's not a number that you can put directly to data. And I will say, I think my tracking of data and my measuring data, I don't think that any of this should be emotional. You can't just come out and say like, oh no, we're doing fine there. No, measure it, review it, decide if it's actually working for you. And if it isn't, be honest with yourself, make a change. And that's just such a big important part of how we grew last year, is just looking at all this stuff and not taking anything for granted.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. Now let's talk about the bad stuff. So there was so you're killing it, right? Everything's working, but if everything just worked perfectly, that would be too good of a story, right? So it was like you had this location.
Yeah.
The location was good.
Yeah.
There was other dentists in those locations. We did ad changes, call to action changes. You got more Google reviews. I think you even changed doctors somewhere in there at some point. Maybe that was a different practice,
Nope.
But I mean, no. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you had we did everything. We threw the kitchen sink at this location, and it wasn't just you. It was like people in your company, people in my company. I met with you. Like we tried everything, and you couldn't get your new patients up there. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it wasn't just the one. Like you said, it would be too good of a story if this seemed too easy. We had several locations that struggled, that took a lot of effort and a lot of what felt like sleepless nights with me worrying about them. But yeah, this location, to break it down, I mean, they averaged low 20s new patients. For us, that's not where we want to be. It's not what we're looking for. And we tried everything, like you said. We released advertising. They had our highest ad spend throughout the year. They had our most amount of focus. We spent the most time trying to train them, and nothing was working. We couldn't figure out how to really generate the new patients. And it remained that way. And to be honest, that location didn't see what the rest of our locations saw in terms of growth. It felt like they just gone through a move. And again, even though the Google reviews that we talked about were good, other things like the street presence, it's just not there with this location. And so you're already setting yourself up to have a tougher time. Something that we didn't talk about that you don't know, though, is through refining this location this month is on track and has actually, as of this morning, hit their new patient record.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's so awesome.
And the reason for anyone wanting to know why that's happened,
I want to know.
So we lowered, Gary helped me out with this actually, but we lowered our call to actions last month. We found out that we weren't competitive. Again, a lot of data, you got to go through it. You got to figure out what's going on. And so part of a recommendation, something we worked at, was our call to actions, and we reduced the cost of our new patient specials. Overnight change, it seems. We'll see. We'll measure it longer.
Okay. Yeah. So here's what happens, just for the audience, because this happens all the time. Dentists hate low cost cleanings and low cost exam and x-rays. And I get why, right? Everything's expensive. You got to make money. But there's a game that goes on in marketing that we don't really set the rules to. It's kind of the competitors around us set the rules. So you're in this little pocket of dentists there, and your prices were here for your cleaning, and everybody else's were here. And even though you had all the reviews, even though you had the location, even though you had the doctor, even though you can answer the phones, even though you threw marketing budget, you tried everything, it's just like nothing moved the needle. So it was like, let's try to match these guys. How much did you lower your call to actions by? How many dollars?
Emergency exams, we lowered it $69 to free, I'm pretty sure. And we took our cleaning exam and x-ray down to about that. So
And here's the other thing for the audience, because I already know what doctors are going to listen to this and they're going to be like, oh, they're all horrible patients. This is an affluent area. These people have tons of money, right?
I think we looked at the lowest income was $90,000 average for, when we break it down into three. Yeah. We plot everything on maps and check it all out. And yeah, it's a very affluent area. It's right on the NYC commuter line. It's a huge population. I mean, it's New Jersey, so the population density is always big. Yeah. What you're saying is true.
Man, I am so happy for you. You've done an amazing job. You've totally knocked it out of the park. This is not, Geoff, I'm just being totally honest with you. I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands of marketing people. This is not the normal story of the new guy coming into dental. So that's why I wanted to bring you on. I wanted to highlight it. I wanted to highlight you.
Thank you so much.
So great job. Last question for you. If someone's new coming into dental for marketing, because I'm sure someone's going to stumble across this and be like, I need help. I got these 5 or 10 practices and I'm new to dental.
Yeah.
What would be your one piece of advice to them?
Don't get distracted, especially if you know your marketing. The biggest challenge is that everyone thinks that they're a marketing expert out there. They all have this idea, or they've seen something that they want to do, or they want to be on whatever it is. I know last time we joked about TikTok and being on those apps. Just don't get distracted. Like this, there's no home run that's out there. Like, yeah, I had things that I'm talking about that changed my new patient numbers, what feels like overnight. But again, we're going to measure it. We're going to make sure that it's true, and keep going. But just crunch the data. Don't let yourselves get distracted by what you think, because you're never going to get that whole story unless you're looking at the data, and make very informed decisions that don't waste a lot of money.
Awesome stuff, man. Great job. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.